So little Ben Shapiro is up to his usual antics. Now, Shapiro, he's this guy that basically lives on Twitter. I don't even have a Twitter account anymore. Everyone cool has already been kicked off, and most people on Twitter, they're a bunch of little nerds like Shapiro. But he said something that has gotten attention. That's all this guy tries to do, is get attention on Twitter. Now, Ben Shapiro, he's a guy that's trying to be a leader for white working class Christians. The guy is not white. He's never had an actual job, a real job, a day in his life, because he's born to rich Hollywood producer parents that just hooked him up and got him his dream position, and he's funded by billionaires. So he's never even had a regular job in his life, never even mowed a neighbor's lawn for a little bit of cash. And as far as representing Christians, he rejects Jesus Christ. But he had a tweet regarding this, and there's been some talk about Mel Gibson doing a sequel to The Passion of the Christ, and Ben tweeted out, Passion of the Christ 2, he won't be crossed again. You know, crossed because Jesus died on a cross. And if you've been following this channel, you know that I've become a very religious person, and people ask me questions about things like this when people insult Jesus. Do we get angry about it? Well, first of all, what Shapiro said, it's not great to joke around about something that many of us consider sacred, but it's not the worst insult. But even if it was, honestly, most of us, we really don't care. And if this stuff that we believe in is true, well, we're going to get the last laugh, or Jesus is going to have the last laugh when it comes time, when we die, and then we're going to find out what the real deal is. So if it's true, he's going to have what's coming to him anyways, as is the rest of us. But this joke too, how can you be offended by Shapiro's joke? Because it's so cringy, and he plagiarized it from something else. This is a very old meme that goes back years. I've seen this. So he couldn't even be creative enough, because he's not smart enough. He's not above average IQ to come up with something a little bit more clever than that. And it's funny because Shapiro's people, they tell us that his people, they're known for their senses of humor. They're known for their great comedy skills. But he had to plagiarize an old cringy joke. And every joke that Shapiro tells, it's super cringy. If you've seen his video where he gave the speech at Stanford, and he was trying to tell all these jokes and be humorous, and he thinks he's such a big shot, such a celebrity. He thinks people are going to laugh and applaud, but they're so embarrassing. But he's not above average intelligence, which is why he won't debate a lot of people further to the right of him. He refuses to debate, and Shapiro is certainly not a funny guy at all. Every joke he has is just embarrassing. But what's the real deal? Shapiro makes these jokes because, number one, he has disdain for many of the people that he wants to represent, these white working class Christians. He actually has disdain for them. And evidence of that is from a couple years ago when he had that other video, when someone asked him, what do you think of people having to work more than one job to support themselves?
If you had to work more than one job to have a roof over your head or food on the table, you probably shouldn't have taken the job that's not paying you enough. That'd be a you problem.
And he had that very snide tone of voice. Well, that's not a me problem, that's a you problem. If you're not making enough money from your first job, you shouldn't have taken that job, so you shouldn't have to work one. That's a you problem. He came off incredibly ignorant of the plight of working class people and the situation that some people are in. Now, you can try to do the mental gymnastics and think, well, maybe he was trying to make a statement of you need to take responsibility for your own life and everything that comes into it. No, that's a message that you'll get on this channel. With Shapiro, there's no deep message to it. He just has disgust and disdain for a lot of the people that would be his typical fan or his typical target audience. And he certainly doesn't like Christians. He spoke about this before. He basically is told, well, he has told lies about Jesus before, even on Joe Rogan's podcast, where he said that he was just a Jew that tried to create a failed uprising against the Romans, which, if you know anything about Jesus, that's not at all what he was about. He wasn't trying to even upset the Romans. There was another people that he was going against. So the issue, aside from Ben Shapiro, he has disdain for his own followers and the people that he wants to be the leader of. He doesn't like people that are lower class, even middle class. And he certainly doesn't like Christians. And of course, being from his people, generally, they're not pro-Christ. Generally, they're like Shapiro, which are literally anti-Christ. They want to go against Christ. And I'm not saying all people from his particular bloodline are like that. Many of them are the same as people that were raised to be Christian, of they're kind of indifferent, they don't believe in it, they don't really care. There's a lot of people in our society, and especially a lot of the more secular ones that are atheists. They don't have any faith, any religion whatsoever. They don't want to have any part of it. A lot of those people don't really care. And then there's another group, which is much like a lot of former Christians, where they have some sort of animosity towards Christ. Maybe something in their life didn't work out the way they thought it should have. Things didn't go according to their plans for their life, so they have some kind of bitterness. And you see a lot of ex-Christians like that actually, they're anti-Christ. And many of Shapiro's people, they're the same way. But Shapiro, he's a guy that's so dense, and he doesn't get it. He doesn't get that he's insulting the people that he wants to be the leader of, and the people that he's trying to lead and ultimately lead astray. But they say those that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I don't know exactly what kind of house Shapiro lives in, but it does have wooden doors. The issue with Shapiro is also this. If any of us were to say that about he claims to be such a religious person, and he likes to boast about that, about how pious and how religious he is. If we were to say something even lightly mocking his faith, you know what he would be accusing us of. He certainly doesn't like a lot of us people that have beliefs that are a lot different than what he believes. So certainly he would be accusing us. And Shapiro, notice how him and like leftists and like how everyone in American society, they all know there's one religion that they can pick on and it's socially acceptable, and that's Christianity. Shapiro also hates Muslims, make no doubt about that. He's even written papers about how much he hates Muslims. But notice, he's too big of a coward to talk about Muhammad or anything like that. He simply won't do it because he's part of the establishment. He's going to stay on YouTube. He has these rich backers. So he's ultimately a pretty PC guy. He picks and chooses his battles when it comes to the PC stuff. He's not this rebel the way he tries to make himself out to be. And like I said, going back to the beginning of the video, does it offend people like me? No, because our God is above that kind of thing. And like I said, if this stuff is true, ultimately revenge is for the Lord. So we have no worry about it. And I told my wife about this, and she said a number of years ago, she posted something about Jesus online, and a husband of one of her friends, who's a Canadian guy, this husband, he started mocking Jesus in the comments. He started trying to give my wife a really hard time about this, about talking about Jesus, and tried to make a complete mockery of Jesus, and was just said all this really ugly, disrespectful stuff. And a few days later, 2 or 3 days after that, this guy got in a really bad accident. Now, is that karma? Is it the Lord trying to take some sort of revenge? Well, I don't know, but what did my wife do? She ultimately prayed for this guy, for a good recovery for this guy. And I think that's very noble of my wife, though I do want to say, I criticize Ben Shapiro and a lot of those phonies on this channel a lot. And all these really cucky Christians, I'm not saying my wife was, she did the right thing, but some Christians, they take it to the point of being a cuck, and they say, oh, you shouldn't criticize Ben Shapiro or point out all the bad things he's doing or how he's trying to lead people astray. You should pray for him. Well, that's absolutely ridiculous because if you know anything about our religion, ultimately we have free will and you can't pray away someone's free will. Even God himself does not step in and overturn someone else's decisions. And he's made the decision to be this way. And all we can do is fight against the bad guys. Look, you can pray for terrorists all you want, but ultimately you want to send in the military or whoever to go and put those guys down and send them up to the Lord for the final decision instead of sitting around praying for them. Of course, there's a time to pray and there's a time for action. And my friends, I genuinely believe you should do both.